All week long, we've been getting you ready for back to school, and right now we're going to go to the North Bay where two schools are unifying following an investigation into school segregation. Joining us now to talk about the unification efforts for those two schools and their plans for the school year is Dr. Itoco Garcia, Superintendent of Sausalito Marin School District. Dr. Garcia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us on and for covering our district.
Let's talk about the district. Let's talk about the desegregation of the district and the efforts being put into motion with that. What are those efforts specifically, and how has that been going?
Sure. As you noted, we received the first desegregation order in 50 years in the state of California in August of 2019. And there were a bunch of conditions in the settlement agreement. Namely creating a scholarship fund for students that were affected by segregation, providing a career and college counseling program. We have met all of the timelines in the settlement agreement for those conditions. We have a scholarship program in partnership with 10,000 Degrees for any of the eligible students. We have a career college counseling program that begins in the 4th grade to support students with an opportunity to access that scholarship program. And we had 5, 10, and 15-year benchmarks laid out in the settlement agreement, to desegregate the school district. On August 23rd, which will be our first day of school, we will have met the 5, 10, and 15-year desegregation benchmarks in the settlement agreement in 2 years. We've done that by unifying the independent charter school that existed in our school district, Willow Creek Academy, with our traditional public school, Bayside MLK. Willow Creek Academy closed on July 1st, and all of the students and teachers from Willow Creek have joined the students and teachers from Bayside MLK, or when I say all, virtually all. We retained 93% of students from charter school and 14 of 16 classroom teachers. And we retain 99% of students from our traditional school, Bayside MLK, and 12 of 13 classroom teachers from there. We just finished 2 days of professional learning to start the year with our new unified staff that were absolutely tremendous and energizing and optimistic. And we are quite ready for our first day of school on Monday, August the 23rd. As a staff, there's a few small details that need to get worked out in terms of transportation and a few other things, but I'm confident we'll have those worked out early next week. And we're really excited. Our board ratified our COVID safety plan at last night's board meeting. And so I feel very confident that we are probably best positioned of any school district in the state of California to operate safe in-person school next year. And I say that with no hubris. We operated in-person school last year for 176 days of in-person instruction. We started on September the 14th, 2020, and our last day of school was June the 29th. So we've had a relatively short break to clean and move campuses and teachers and all of the things that are involved in unifying a school. But we did those 176 days of in-person instruction with 0 COVID transmissions. And so I'm very confident in our COVID safety plan and in our operations and our protocols. We will be operating with some significantly stricter protocols in place than are currently being required by the state or the Marin County Public Health Department. And my strategy for doing that is to make sure that if there are more stringent protocols coming down the pipe, that we don't have to change our operations at all. If anything, we should be able to ease and relax our COVID restrictions as the school year goes on, instead of trying to scramble and do something more complex.
I want to get to your COVID restrictions in a moment, but with regard to the unification efforts that the district is implementing, those are obviously actions that are being taken over, I guess, years of just seeing discrepancies. But specifically with regard to last year and the remote learning and the distance learning, did you or anyone within the district observe any discrepancies that stood out during that year? Lack of resources, maybe more learning loss in, let's say, one group. Did any of that kind of stand out over the course of the year where distance learning was a thing?
Absolutely. It's one of the reasons that we committed so strongly to opening in-person school. We actually figured out early in the pandemic that many of our low-income students of color were being particularly negatively impacted by the shift to distance learning. We were the first school district in Marin County to get students back for in-person instruction. We actually got students back in mid-May of 2020, before the end of the 1920 school year. And in addition to that, we were the first public school district in the state of California to receive a waiver from the Public Health Department, from the State Department of Public Health, to operate in-person school. That's why we were so committed to it. We have some amazing community partners. The Marin City Free Library helped us get hotspots for any kids that didn't have them early in the pandemic. We've worked very closely with the Marin Community Foundation to launch a free Wi-Fi network here in Marin City and to offer Comcast Internet Essentials for any of our students that are living in Golden Gate Village, which is our public housing project, which isn't conducive to wireless just because of the architecture of the buildings. But as a district with some resources, we were able to get one-to-one computing devices to everyone. So we really focused early on the pandemic on internet connectivity. That was the difference. About 30% of our kids simply didn't have the access or the bandwidth necessary to really reliably interact with in-person instruction. And so that's one of the reasons why we decided to open in person at the end of the 1920 school year and then open on September the 14th last school year. We knew it was an issue of equity that was particularly impacting students and families from our community. And so our teaching staff as Sausalito District Teachers Association, our classified staff, the Golden Gate chapter of CSEA, were absolutely heroic in agreeing to come back to work in person, really before anybody else in the entire Bay Area. And everybody did that because we know that our livelihoods are dependent upon our students and families, and we're here to serve our students and families. And I think it was really not only an issue of equity, but an act of great love that allowed us to open for in-person instruction so early. But it was precisely in response to the inequities that we were seeing with distance learning that we made that commitment.
I see. Now, you had mentioned stricter COVID restrictions in place for schools within your district. I know Marin County has one of, if not the highest vaccination rates in the country. With these, what are these tighter restrictions? And with these tighter restrictions, are you seeing any resistance on the part of parents? Are they coming to you and saying, you know, our vaccination rate is so great, why are we going harder? So let's, I guess, talk about first what those tighter restrictions are.
Yeah, so we will be requiring masks for all students and staff, both indoors and out. We will be maintaining a lot of the things that we did last year that were so successful in keeping us safe. We'll have separate entrances for each grade level cohort. We're actually going to keep kids in grade level cohorts, even though we don't have to. We also feature small class sizes, 17-to-1 in kindergarten through third grade, 20-to-1 in 4th through 8th. We will continue delivering meals directly to classrooms so that there's no mixing of grade level cohorts in the cafeteria, for instance. We will maintain dedicated recess and lunch times. And at any time when our students need to be on the yard together, they will be at separate ends of the yard so that the cohorts do not mix. We will continue health screenings in person by staff of arriving students. We will maintain a system of QR codes so that any adults that are mixing between cohorts are scanning when they enter rooms to support track and trace. And those are all generally tighter restrictions than what is currently required by either the county or the state. So the current requirement is masks indoors, but there's no cohort restrictions or anything like that. And we are going a little bit more strictly to ensure that if there are stricter requirements in the future, that we don't have to try to do something else.
How are parents reacting to these stricter restrictions?
I think really thankfully, honestly, we have yet to receive any parent pushback, or, you know, I know people around the country are advocating for looser restrictions. Our parent community is actually really, I think, very supportive of what we're doing and much more concerned with making sure that we keep kids and staff healthy and safe. And they understand that these tighter restrictions are designed to do that.
Well, that's good to hear, because typically school districts, I mean, the educators and the faculty and staff within each school, their priority is to keep their students safe and healthy. Their priority is no different than that of the parents. So it's good to see that the parents are on board with everything that Marin County, the school district there, is doing in order to keep the students safe. Dr. Garcia, what is your outlook on this upcoming year?
This is the most exciting year in my entire educational career. This is the most unique opportunity in all of education. We have an incredibly diverse school district with quite a generous amount of resources, what I would argue should be the resources available to any and all school districts. But we are in a unique situation. And what we're doing is really reimagining and redesigning the public school system so that it really delivers on the promise of public education for all of our students and family, regardless of race or income or immigration status or language. And that has really been the focus of our professional learning over the last 2 days, is really reflecting on and analyzing all of the things that kind of underpin a traditional school system and create the historically durable and predictable outcomes for certain groups of students. And really, we're trying to reimagine how we can do things differently. So we're very excited to start the school year. As I said, we have a really strong track record of operating safe in-person schools, and we're going to get to do it in an amazing way this year. We'll have a focus on project-based learning and climate justice and social justice and arts integration. And our staff has just come together in a really beautiful and amazing way and leaned into some of the challenges that reimagining education requires. And I think everybody's excited to get the school year started and welcome kids and families back.
All right. Well, Dr. Itoco Garcia, I hear the excitement in your voice. We hear the excitement in the voices of all the educators and superintendents and principals and everyone that we've spoken to this week. And I'm sure that excitement, transcends to the students and the parents that are, all looking forward to returning to school, especially after such a tough year of distance learning. We really appreciate you taking time out to speak to us about the desegregation efforts over at the Sausalito Marin City School District. And we wish you the best of luck on this new academic year.
Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate your coverage.
Thank you so much.